Blech.
Frumess talks about Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Let's all talk about Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Okay, here we are again. Another day, another horror movie. Welcome to 31 Days of Halloween. This is the 2021 edition, horror movie number 13. This time we're doing Shudder, a lot of Shudder. Shudder heavy sort of viewing list this year. I don't go by any particular order. I go by how I feel. And today I watched The Boy Behind the Door, made in 2020, starring This Is Us's Lonnie Chavis. Lonnie plays Randall as a child in the 90s, in the late 80s on This Is Us. So you might recognize him, but he's in this film. And it's basically, the best way to describe it, I don't have anything written here, I'm just going off of notes. It's Home Alone with pedos. It's Home Alone meets People Under the Stairs, except with pedos. You know, with child, that sort of thing. I'm not going to say that word. I got to dance around it because of YouTube. Basically, two kids are abducted, kidnapped by, I guess the word is seasoning house, kind of. Not a seasoning house, whatever. It's a kidnapped house, like a dungeon house, whatever. And just a lot of cat and mouse stuff. Lonnie is plays the hero. You know, he's best friends with another kid, and the other kid is being held hostage, and they just have to negotiate and navigate. And the movie starts off, it is really grim. This stuff really terrifies me. You know, I can watch anything horror. I've talked about this when we did the Megan is Missing thing on the channel. Check that out. I talked about how I can watch anything. Nothing bothers me. Nothing really bothers me. I can pretty much watch anything. But when it involves children, that's the thing that makes my blood run cold with terror. And it probably has to do with the fact that I'm a father. I know it sounds like such a weird cliche, 65-year-old women thing to say. It's something my grandmother Doris would say. God rest Doris. I weep for the children. I weep for the children. And so to see these two children taken was very hard for me to sort of stomach and watch. And, just some notes along the way. So, one of the kids, Lonnie, the kid that Lonnie plays, escapes. And the thing about Lonnie is he's like an avatar for my son. Okay, I'm clearly not a black guy. Lonnie is black. But Lonnie is like the black version of my son. They have a similar energy to them. He just reminds me so much of my boy. I have a 6-year-old son. I don't know how, I'm sure Lonnie is much older, but, probably like 12 or something. But they have a similar energy. So I'm really concerned for his well-being in this film. I think I'd be concerned for any kid's well-being, but obviously it's a little deeper because the kid reminds me of my son, the black version of my son, whatever. I don't know how else to say that. It's a weird thing to say, but it's true. And, he goes up against one of the pedo capture, kidnappers and stabs him in the gut with a knife. And, I noticed right off the bat, people always instantly die from body wounds, like he gets stabbed right in like the side and like instantaneously goes unconscious and dies. And I feel like unless you're stabbed in like the heart or whatever, it's just, I don't know, it's not realistic. But basically Lonnie is trying to rescue his other friend, and there is some hard stuff to sort of see. But the thing that the movie does really well is that it takes incredibly grim, incredibly rough subject matter that is hard to stomach and sort of implies things. Like, I thought the way that they captured something that happens to actual children in real life, I thought they did a wonderful job. Like, they did a good job of implying without like feeling like it was brutal. And I have really respect and appreciate them for doing it. There's a moment where he finds a super old-fashioned rotary telephone. And, you always hear today, we always talk about how with today's tech, so many movie problems get solved, like in Romeo and Juliet. With a simple text message, Romeo and Juliet avert tragedy. So it's interesting to see these little kids refer to a rotary phone as like the type of phone you see in films, and that their salvation may lie in something that they don't know how to use. They're like, oh, you have to connect like a wire that looks like a modem cable to it. You know, like they don't, like, this is alien to them. For us, it's not alien, but to them, it's alien. It's interesting. There's a really grisly broken nail, and I thought it was a great way to build tension through something that was painful and scary without resorting to hurting kids in a pedo kind of way. I like this approach. We don't need to see that. You know what I mean? There's one scene where the kid is like going to take this heavy grate and break his own leg, and he didn't have to do it for it to be so shocking and terrifying. It's just that he's chained to this radiator thing. He needs to escape because he's trying to like survive. And we know what happens to the other children who are taken, because we find there's a pile of bloody clothes, and there's a stack of Polaroids, and, you know, we don't see anything graphic in the Polaroids, but plenty is implied as to what happens. This is a processing house. They take them in, they do their thing, and they dispose of them afterwards. It's heartbreaking and real. That happens to children. That does happen to children. That's what's so terrifying and scary. And so this kid's going to break his own leg to get out of a chain with this grate. It's just brutal. I saw a lot of tribute to The Shining with the axe. There's this whole scene in the bathroom. Lonnie locks himself in a bathroom, and you have an unseen assailant who's the other, you know, sort of kidnapper, who is axing down the door, you know, beat for beat, frame for frame, just like in Stanley Kubrick's cinematic version of The Shining. And it's, you know what I said? I said it's something, obviously it was a tribute to The Shining, I think, but whether it was or was not, it's something that is now so iconic that you can't do it by coincidence. Like, if you're doing it, this is the reason why you're doing it. You know what I mean? There's a moment at 49 minutes and 20 seconds where, you know, they eventually, the kid, Lonnie, successfully does call the police from the rotary phone. Someone's canvassing the area, but I thought that they had traced the call to the house. So the cops do show up at 49:20. And I write, if this is the police, then the film is over. Because there's no way that whoever the kidnappers is going to sweet talk the police. The police have come to the door. That's the end of the film. But there is a reveal. And I'm like, why aren't they showing this person, right? Like, we're expecting it to be a man. And I called this before the reveal. I called it, and I was right. As the axe wielder is coming down the stairs, we start to realize that, you know, maybe not as all as it seems. And when she answers the door to the police officer, it is a woman. So the nastiest woman who ever lived, one of them. I mean, she's just a nasty, pure evil woman. And, you know, cop comes in the house, and she buries an axe in the cop's gut. And it's just like Scatman Crothers in The Shining. So that's the second Shining reference. And then they do one more Shining thing. There's a lot of Shining stuff in here, in addition to people under the stairs. And then I wrote, holy crap, a little kid gets shot. Yes, that does happen. And it's crazy. And they find the set. They find the set that they do all their shooting on, if you know what I mean. And it's so upsetting, dude. It's so upsetting to see, even though it's like not a real film, it's dramatized, it's still upsetting because it's real. This happens to real children. I was very happy when Lonnie cuts off the kidnapper's finger with gardening shears. I thought that was great. I've never like rooted for something like that. I was like, well, I mean, I have, but like, you know, I was very happy. Like, there was I felt, you feel zero empathy for these people. I did roll my eyes hard when they're saved by the cop with the gun. I wanted these kids to outsmart the kidnapper. I was a little annoyed that these two kids who are so resourceful and managed to stop one guy, you know, he gets killed, he gets a knife to the gut. You can't stop this woman with an axe. I feel like they should have been able to outsmart her. And would I recommend this film? I don't know. I don't know if it's something I would want other people to see. I don't know if I recommend it. It's like the type of film, like, it has no rewatch value. Any film with that kind of subject matter has zero rewatch value. You watch it once and you're like, you feel like really depressed and like sad inside, and then you're like, okay, I'm never gonna watch that again. So that's kind of how I feel about this movie. So it was okay. Nothing particularly special. Like I said, a premise of People Under the Stairs meets Home Alone with pedos and tributes to The Shining. And that's it. That's all I got to say about that. I'll see you tomorrow with another film, kids. Bye.